other changes here. 2 Lingering Souls, where our last player did not have any Lingering Souls in his main deck. You're also going to find 2 copies of main deck Garrett Relentless. No main deck copies of Acidic Slime, a card that's kind of gone back and forth in and out as far as if people want to play it in their main deck or not. It's actually gone from Nestico's list. So you're going to see a different take on it. He also does have 3 copies of Farseek to go along with 4 Absence Pilgrim, so no Arbor Elves here either. But Absence Pilgrim on turn 1 is going to show up as Doom Traveler is going to come across here for Kostner and knock Nestico down to 19.
And this is going to be an interesting matchup because generally you would think Nestico should have the advantage simply because junk tokens probably can't put up enough pressure. But once you start casting Lingering Souls and you can get Sorin to start ticking down to give you those emblems, you'd be surprised at how much damage junk tokens can sort of ramp up to.
So now Farseek here from Nestico, gonna put a Godless Shrine into play, and looks like he probably has another land to follow that up with as well. So accelerating quite well. As we'll find out more about these players here. Mark Nestico is from Estero, Florida. He is your current Florida State champion. A couple PTQ top 8s as well, and he does have a big smiley face because he does write for Star City Games. Good use of the smiley face, Mark. Appreciate you.
And Farseek, turn to Farseek from Reanimator, something that Jerry Thompson sort of made popular. He wrote an article a couple of weeks ago about how it's probably just a better ramp spell than Arbor Elf because it smooths your mana and it's not vulnerable to some of the removal that you're seeing out there. Yeah,
I think it's a pretty big deal where, you know, as you said, it smooths your mana, it makes it so that you can't be lit up by removal. I think that's the big thing is when people were playing 8 Accelerants, and you see a Thragtusk here from Nestico, going to push his life total up to 23. When people are playing 8 Accelerants, people move towards cards like Bonfire of the Damned, like Trickery, is a Static Caster to control those mana Accelerants, and if you're able to control those, then the Junk Reanimator deck actually has to play a very fair game and actually have to hit their land drops or hit well with mulches or find lands with Grizzly Salvage instead of an awesome card, and that was a way to just really slow them down and be able to kill them in time. But if you go towards Farseek and only 4 mana Accelerants, you don't open yourself up to those kind of wonky or kind of poor ways to lose a game that you can avoid otherwise.
I think Pilgrim, you still want to play that just because it does give you the white mana that you sometimes need in the deck. So you're still having 8 Accelerants, but they can get you all the color mana. Whereas Arbor Elf, sometimes you can't even it doesn't actually count as a ramp.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might just have like Sun Petal Grove. So Kelly, unfortunately, does not have the Lingering Souls and doesn't even have a Planeswalker to follow up here. So we're going to see a block here. Just get a token with Doom Traveler.
Traveler is doomed indeed. Could not block fast enough, so there's your Spirit token.
So Nestico has just a Thragtusk right now, but it looks like he also has an Burial Rites in his hand, as well as a Vault of Archangel, which is a card that is great in Kelly's deck, but also pretty good in Nestico's deck as well.
Yeah, these value lands that we've seen from Innistrad block, Vault of the Archangels is an incredible one, but there's an opportunity cost associated with that card because it taps for colorless mana. If your mana is online, you can activate this thing every turn, either offensively or defensively. This card is completely insane, but it can mess with your lands if you do draw it on the opening turns of the game, make it so that you can't cast some of your spells, and at the end of the day, this is a colorless land in a 3-color deck.
Yeah. And it's a gamble, but I think it's just a powerful effect. It's such a powerful effect and can really swing the game in your favor that it's worth playing at least 1 copy, maybe board in a second. Here we see Kelly play a Thragtusk of his own, and it looks like we're going to see a swing with the Angel Spirit token, or nope. Oh, looks like he's afraid of Restoration Angel there, so just decides to pass.
I think that's a fair thing to be scared of when your opponent is representing that much mana and played a Vault and did not, like, he didn't play Vault pre-combat and activate it on his attack, which is something he could have done. Now, he is at least representing Restoration Angel. Doesn't mean that he has it, but he's certainly representing it.
But that's still why I think Kelly should have attacked there, because I don't think your Spirit token's doing much for you right now in defense. Whereas if you attack, yeah, he might have a Restoration Angel, but at least you get information from him. Plus, if he has Restoration Angel on his Thragtusk, you're in pretty bad shape either way. I don't think that Spirit's really going to be helping you. So if you attack there, at least, if Mark doesn't have the Restoration Angel, you gain advantage, you gain information, and you attack for 1, and it allows you to play your next turns accordingly. So I think I still would have attacked there with Kelly, because again, it's just 1 Spirit token.
So we see Thragtusk trades in combat with another Thragtusk. Beast tokens are going to come into play. Pikachu playing a Beast token impersonation for right now. And then an Unburial Rites is going to bring back a Thragtusk here for Nestico. So a small little graveyard engine coming online here. But one thing you see among Nestico's lands, you see both players have multi-Archangels now, is that Nestico is at the requisite 7 mana, and we're almost in Angel of Serenity territory now.
And yeah, with the Avacyn Pilgrim, Mark can basically cast any Angel of Serenity he draws. He also has the Unburial Rites in his graveyard still that he could flash back. So he's in pretty good shape. Even a Grizzly Savage or a Mulch here would give him the requisite card advantage he needs probably to dig for that other threat. Kelly really needs some pressure in the air. A Lingering Souls would be a good draw, but on top of that, he also probably needs a Sorin. Beyond that, he really doesn't have enough pressure. Mark's gummed up the ground pretty well. He has also got a Vault of Archangel to pump up his life. So you really kind of need to attack Reanimator in the air if you're junk tokens here. Looks like he does have another Thragtusk to gum up the board a little more and give himself some time to draw those cards.
Yeah, but if you are a junk Reanimator, as you're going to see,
looks like he's using Brawls to go up in the air, which is a smart move here, because again, Kelly knows the best way for me to win this game is just to go through the air.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're a junk Reanimator, you're so good at gumming up the ground. And what junk Reanimator often does is it gums up the ground and then just wins in the air with Restoration Angel or Angel of Serenity or what have you. But it gumming up the ground gives it time to draw to those cards that you mentioned, be it Mulch, be it Grizzly Salvage, be it Angel of Serenity, be able to clear the way for those ground guys to be able to get through. So if you're Kelly, you want to try to get this game over with as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Because I think the draw steps here favor Nestico more than they do for Kostner.
Yes, definitely. And that was a pretty solid play by Kelly. Unfortunately, Mark does have a Fiend Hunter, it appears, so it doesn't look like that token's going to be too much of a factor for much longer. And now we have Mark swinging with both the Thragtusk and the Thragtusk token. And Kelly's Thragtusk token, Beast token, will trade with Mark Nestico's Thragtusk, bringing him another Pikachu Beast token into play, and dropping Kelly down to 17.
The classic Pikachu Beast token. Always here. They look like they're foiled too. And I don't know much about the old Pokemon card game, but those do look like foil
Pikachus. So it looks like we will see Fiend Hunter enter play, taking out the Spirit token. And looks like we have access to 4 mana. And could we be seeing Thragtusk getting Unburial Rites? Okay, so they are replaced by Liz Nugent tokens.
Okay. Turtle power.
And looks like flashback Unburial Rites on a Thragtusk. So solid board presence here by Mark. I believe one of those Beast tokens is tapped. So
it looks like we're trying to break the record for number of Thragtusk casts in the map, or number of Thragtusk put into play. I look like we're at 4 right now.
So let's see. It looks like we have a Lotless Troll drawn by Kelly. Again, not exactly what you want here. It's going to give him some protection on the ground, but again, in order to push this game through, he's going to need some flyers. He really needs the Lingering Souls here. Even a Sigarda would be pretty solid.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't be able. You can't get targeted. But again, he only has 1 copy of Sigarda in his deck.
So Thragtusk number 800 has shown up. See a Lotless Troll, also a Goblet Shrine in hand as well. I'm gonna pass the turn back. Looks like we're gonna see some Scavenge. All right, so gonna make that Varos into a 3/3.
Well, Lotleth would be pretty interesting because the trample effect is another way you could potentially push through. So if that Thragtusk dies, which we expect it will, he can scavenge it onto the Lotless Troll and make it a real threat.
So here's the big draw here for Nestico. It's a Grizzly Salvage. He's going to turn over 5 cards. He's going to do a nice job of keeping it off camera, but there is an Angel of Serenity that's going to hand, Obsidian going in the graveyard, along with a Lingering Soul. So he has found exactly what he's looking for, has the necessary lands to actually cast Angel of Serenity and clear some things out of the way now, and get the engine online.
Obsidian gets targeted, Fiend Hunter gets targeted, along with... Oh, no, looks like he's just going to take out the Thragtusk.
Yeah. Leave him with a 3/3 Beast and start to just push through some damage, which I like this play. He wants to clear up things, does Nestico, and just get this game over with. Because, I don't think he has a very good idea of what he's playing against, because there's no real deck right now that's super popular that has this composition of cards. When you're playing against like Varls and Doom Travel, you can think Junk Aristocrats, but now there's a Thragtusk that's kind of throwing some things off. So I don't think he has a great idea of what he's playing against. So if I'm Nestico in this situation, I kind of just want to clear up your board and just get the game over with. Yeah,
you don't really know what's going on here. I think originally he thought about bringing back an Obsidian, getting out of the Varls, and taking out my Fiend Hunter too. But this play, you're going to leave him just with a token, which will probably get traded to combat right now.
Yeah.
and then you still have a 5/6 flyer that Kelly has to contend with.
Yep. It's not even Fiend Hunter is going to get into the red zone here, which I love. You know, if he wants to take his turn to take 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11 points of damage, Kostner, he can move himself down to 14 to take care of a Fiend Hunter. I think if you're Nestico, you're thrilled with that.
Well, the only drawback to that is that the Fiend Hunter is an even better threat next turn when you can activate your Vault of Archangel, because
Sure.
it guarantees to kill anything.
That's
but
true.
you know, I agree with you. You're basically just trading 2 damage. I think you still probably block the Fiend Hunter here though, because you have at least 2 blockers in your hand. Let's see what he does. So it looks like he's just going to trade with the Thragtusk.
Okay.
Soak up 5 damage. Takes 7. Nestico's left with another 3/3. So drops Kelly to 18, and he has 15 damage on the board, threatening to do 15 with his attackers next turn.
And potentially gain 15 life,
And potentially gain 15.
which is scary in and of itself.
So let's see what you have. Looks like that Lothar Troll is really the only action that Kelly has.
So Nestico is going to break the ice with a little icebreaker, put that back in there. Mark, I'll take one. I don't mind. There's a Lothar Troll that's going to come into play here. Let's see what the follow-up's going to be. It's going to be another Varal's Discard Strike.
And it looks like if he has a creature to discard to the Lothar Troll, at least he can block and start trading with the tokens.
Yeah.
And regenerate his Lothar Troll. If Mark can blank on a couple of threats, then Kelly might be able to pull this out. He's still going to need to top deck though.
And even the Absent Pilgrim coming from the trees, coming out from the mana base to get in.
So let's see. He could potentially block. Lothar Troll can block a beast. Morels can block maybe. So he does have Restoration Angel. So we have a block and regenerate. Is Avacyn Pilgrim getting blocked as well? Or is Varels just not blocking anything?
I think Varal's might be being a bit of a coward here just because of Vault of the Archangels. No real interest in blocking. But we're going to see a huge change in life after this combat is over. You'll see a beast token bite the dust as well.
Okay, so Varel's going to get bigger next turn. Hopefully if Kelly can draw Lingering Souls here, he's still in reasonable shape.
Yeah, that would certainly help right now.
You know, he's not in great shape.
Yeah.
But at least he'll have 2 regenerators on the board that could be fairly large. So let's see what draw we have here from Kelly. Doom Traveler would be a decent draw as well.
Yeah,
Gives him a flyer, puts a regeneration shield on Varal's, and he can still make Varal's a 6/6 by removing the Restoration Angel.
Nestico sitting at 43, Kostner at 5. Kostner takes his draw for the turn. Organizing his lands a little bit here, maybe thinking we're going to have a little bit of a battle,
Yep.
but we are not. So Kostner is going to concede, and Mark Nestico is going to win game number 1. Junk Reanimator up a game over Junk Tokens.
Yeah, and again, it was kind of what we talked about earlier. Kelly just couldn't put enough pressure. Junk Tokens, it's definitely good at gumming up the board, but just wasn't able to get enough pressure on the board. And the one flyer he did have that was a significant threat, Mark had the Fiend Hunter to deal with.
So we're going to take a look at the sideboards here. We're going to go over Kelly Kostner's first, as he is going to be on the play here for game number 2, and he's got a very good idea of what he is playing against. So what do we have here for help for him, Lisa?
So he actually has a pretty good sideboard here. He's got 3 Purify the Graves. So I think he kind of suspected that Reanimator is going to be very popular, and his matchup probably isn't that great game 1. So definitely can see 3 Purify the Grave coming in. Also has 2 copies of Deathrite Shaman, which is, again, really great card against Reanimator. He's got Putrefy the Sever the Bloodline, Appetite for Brains, 1 of each. I kind of can see all 3 of those coming in, to be honest. Along with 2 copies of Curse of Deathhold, 2 copies of Blood Baron of Viscopa, and 2 copies of Sin Collector, along with 1 copy of Abrupt Decay. To be honest, I could see him bringing in a lot of cards. I can see him bringing in the Purify the Grave, the Deathrite Shaman, Putrefy just as a way to deal with Angel Serenity. You know, we saw it in game 1. He just doesn't have that many ways to kill flyers, so Putrefy is a solid card. Sever the Bloodline, again, dealing with another way to deal with creatures. Appetite for Brains, I like bringing this card in, especially if you have graveyard removal.
Yep.
Just getting rid of those angels from his hand so he can't cast them later in the game.
Yep.
I like Curse of Deathhold, a little slow, not sure. You know, you saw the Lingering Souls that he milled. Not sure you really need Curse of Deathhold in this matchup, though. It's a little too slow to deal with the mana accelerants. and your tokens are just going to be better than his anyway.
Sure.
So I don't think you need the Curse of Death Toll. I do actually like Blood Baron because there's not really many ways for the Junk Reanimator deck to deal with Blood Baron. A lot of their removal is Sever the Bloodline, so it's a black removal spell. They have maybe a small Garruk as ways to kill creatures, which doesn't affect Blood Baron. They have ways to block with Thragtusk and Beast tokens, but again, if you're bringing in Putrefy and Sever the Bloodlines, and you have 2 copies of Putrefy in your main deck, you can sort of clear the way of those Thragtusks to let your Blood Baron get in. So I actually kind of like Blood Baron in this matchup. So I could see probably bringing in Purify, Deathrite Shaman, Putrefy, Sever the Bloodline, Appetite, and 2 copies of Blood Baron. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards total.
10 cards that are certainly options, which is a pretty good feeling to have.
Yeah.
Honestly. Where you can definitely tell that Kostner has probably built his deck with Junk Reanimator in mind for the sideboarded games. He'd like to turn his matchup around there and see if he can actually pull it out in what is probably a pretty tough game 1 matchup for him.
Yeah, and he doesn't have, he has cards that he kind of doesn't need in this matchup. Voice of Resurgence, you probably don't need. Advent of the Worm, it's fine, but I'm not sure if it's better than your sideboard cards. I also don't know if you need Loxodon Smiter or Abrupt Decay or Sin Collector in this matchup. Okay. Sin Collector obviously is great if you can get an Unburial Rights, but again, Junk Reanimator doesn't play that many spells, so probably want to trim some of those numbers.
We take a look at Mark Nestico's sideboard now. 3 copies of Acidic Slime, 3 Sin Collectors, 1 Sever the Bloodline, 1 Restoration Angel, 2 Deathrite Shaman, 2 Tristani, Selesnia's Voice, 2 Abrupt Decay, and 1 additional Fiend Hunter for the 2 in his main deck. Acidic Slime is one that I think is probably going to come in here because, again, the matchup, how game 1 played, how I think this matchup is going to play is that both players are going to kind of gum things up a little bit on the ground and try to break through in the air. And so if that's the case, Acidic Slime can start to get out of control, blowing up lands, start to blink it with Restoration Angel, bring it back with Unburial Rights. Also, it can act as basically a 2/2 unblockable creature because I don't think Kostner really has any interest in trading a creature with it. So I think Acidic Slime is going to get a lot of value here in this matchup. Sin Collector, I don't think great here. Its body's outclassed.
I think the fact that it can get rid of Lingering Souls is kind of important.
For Sin Collector?
If I'm not sure if Mark was able to figure out that Kelly was a Junk Tokens deck or not. Again, he saw Thragtusk, he saw Varls, so maybe he still might not be sure. Maybe he's putting him more in Act 2.
Okay.
But either way, I think Sin Collector's a pretty good card to bring in because, I mentioned a couple times in game 1, Lingering Souls is one of the key cards that Kelly needs in order to kind of push through damage.
Okay.
So getting rid of Lingering Souls I think is really good. Also, I think a card like Sin Collector is a lot better for Junk Reanimator after board because people generally board in a lot more spells against you. They board in certain removal spells. He doesn't know about Purify the Grave, but it's certainly reasonable if you can get a Purify the Grave. So I think Sin Collector is actually not that bad for Mark to bring in game 2.
Okay. Only other options here. I mean, Sever the Bloodline seems like it's okay. Again, if he's identified that he's playing it's a token deck,
he needs the Sever.
Yeah, then he needs the Sever. But it also has some other targets as well. I mean, destroying exiling Varls, is actually quite good.
Yeah.
So I think that one of us is probably going to come in. Tristani, if we're going to go long, it certainly seems okay. I don't love the Restoration Angel, 2 Deathrite Shamans. He's got some options here that he can bring in. I mean, how much does he want to do to his main deck and change things is the question.
That's the thing, because I think he has a lot of cards, like Deathrite Shaman's pretty good against Varls, Restoration Angel, it's another way to block flyers and deal with flyers. Kelly's deck is a token deck if you're able to put him on it. So it's interesting, but again, how much does Mark really want to dilute his deck? Because that's pretty good against him game 1. Do you really want to, change what works for you?
And does he even really know what he's playing against yet either? That's the big question, because Kostner hasn't revealed anything that says, hey, I am playing this deck, and now you need to try to beat it, as he's going to play a turn 2 Lotless Troll off of that Godless Shrine and the Overgrown 2 and pass the turn back.
Yeah, because even Lotless Troll, you don't really see Lotless Troll in a lot of junk token decks.
Yeah.
So Mark still could be a little confused as to what he's actually playing against. But I think, in general, if you just take the road of, okay, this guy's just a black, green, white, good card deck, he more or less has an idea of what he needs to do against him.
So Farseeker from Nestico is going to allow him to find a Overgrown Tomb, but more importantly, be able to ramp up a little bit here, get to Thragtusk and Friends a little bit sooner, as Kostner's going to draw his card for the turn. He draws a Restoration Angel. He does have a 3rd land in his hand in the form of Temple Garden, which it looks like he may put into play tapped or untapped this turn. But it looks like he is trying to figure out exactly what he wants to accomplish on his 3rd turn of the game.
Yeah, and a slightly better draw from Kelly this game. At least he's got a Lotla Troll in play. With Varls, the card can be pretty threatening. You can discard a creature and then scavenge it and make it a pretty big trampler.
Yeah.
So, again, Lingering Souls would be a great draw here. Looks like, yep, there's the Lingering Souls.
So this is a card that you feel is pretty important in this matchup, and we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
I
see
mean,
exactly how big it is.
I think turn 3 Lingering Souls, turn 4 Sorin Emblem is just one of the best turns, the best sequence that deck can really have. Unfortunately, Mark has Lingering Souls of his own, which is, something that you haven't seen a lot of Junk Reanimator decks play lately. It was obviously very popular early on, but people, I think Brian Brandewan kind of pushed people away from that kind of strategy. Kelly does draw Sever the Bloodline, but which is kind of awkward because he would remove his own spirit tokens.
Yeah. A card that we thought he would bring in, and he does bring in here. So I think, at some point in this game, we're probably going to see that Sever the Bloodline cast and have it be pretty good. But what it feels like to me right now, okay, so he does have a 4th land. It felt like for a moment there that he did not. But he does have a 4th land, and he does have a Sin Collector. So now we're going to go play the little information game.
There it is. And it's kind of awkward because I think he had that Sin Collector the turn before, but he chose to play the Lingering Souls instead. If he played the Sin Collector first, he would have been able to get Mark's Lingering Souls, which is a much better card in this situation.
You see a hand of Isolated Chapel, Temple Garden, Restoration Angel, and Barrel Rights left over there for Nestico.
And again, we know Kelly has a Restoration Angel in his hand, so he's going to be able to get that other Burial Rights.
It's actually not bad. Not bad.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing about Sin Collector, of course, is information is pivotal in Magic. So now, if you're Kostner and you've seen Nestico's hand, you're thinking, all right, this hand is definitely beatable.
Yes.
I'd like to fade some draw steps if possible, but for what I know that he has right now, this hand is very, very beatable. As Nestico's going to come across with 2 spirit tokens in the air, and these 2 players are going to race back and forth a little bit here.
And we're going to get a flashback Lingering Souls from Mark, so Kelly can choose. So this can be, the next turn can be really great for Kelly. If he just passes back with 4 mana up, he might trick Nestico into attacking again, getting the Restoration Angel into play, blinking out his Sin Collector, and getting that last Burial Rights.
The thing that's kind of interesting here is for Kostner, at the very back end of Game 1, he discarded a Restoration Angel to a Lotla Troll. So if you're Nestico and you were paying attention to that, you realize that Kostner has it in his deck. Also, by holding a Restoration Angel in your hand as Kostner plays Gavany Township, you may be thinking, why Restoration Angel in my green-black-white deck? Maybe he does too.
Yeah. By playing the Gavany Township, if he doesn't activate it, then the jig is up.
Yeah, that's true.
At this point, I think you have to just activate. Especially if Mark blocks the way he did, or attempted to block. I think that if you don't activate, it's pretty obvious what you have. But I actually like activating there, though, simply because you don't need to get rid of the Burial Rights right now. He doesn't have any creatures in his graveyard. Even if he top decks a Grizzly Savage, he won't be able to cast Grizzly Savage and Burial Rights. So you can actually wait a turn to actually cast a Restoration Angel, but it looks like he just wants to do it in the draw step.
Yeah, he's going to blink in the draw step. So Burial Right's going to bite the dust. The hand now is Isolated Chapel, Vault of the Archangel, Avacyn Pilgrim, and Restoration Angel. I see the thought process there behind doing it in the draw step. Maybe you catch a sorcery that you didn't know Nestico has in his deck after sideboard. Mm-hmm. At the very worst, you're going to get the Burial Rights that he doesn't know about. You're never going to catch the Grizzly Salvage off of that because it is an instant.
Yeah.
So now here's an Avacyn's Pilgrim. Nestico is going to play that Vault of the Archangel, and now we're going to see what he could do Game 2, which is represent Vault of the Archangel moving forward. This game, it looks like he's going to be using it defensively instead of offensively.
The Sever is actually great now because Kelly played it so he only has 1 spirit token left, and he still has the Lingering Souls in his graveyard, so he forced Mark to flash back first, which allows the Sever to actually gain some value here.
And that's exactly what's going to happen. So Sever the Line is going to take care of those spirits. It's also going to take care of Kelly's spirit, but he's going to clear the way for Lotla Troll, Sin Collector, and Restoration Angel to move into the red zone here.
Probably just Lotla Troll, and so he chooses not to attack with Lotla Troll. He doesn't have any black up.
Knows about the Restoration Angel. And so passes the turn back. So Nestico, let's see what he can find. Again, the scary thing here for Kostner, this has been the scary thing for the entire match, Joseph, is that Angel Serenity from Nestico at any point is the true backbreaker.
Yeah.
It's so difficult for his deck to be able to deal with. As you see Nestico kind of reaching here, but it's just going to come in with the Angel token and activate the Vault of the Archangel to gain some life.
And Kelly does have the Sever the Bloodline in his graveyard as a potential answer to it, but currently he only has 5 mana, so again, Angel Serenity coming down will be pretty good for Mark. But again, Mark doesn't have any creatures in his graveyard, so it's good, but it's not going to be game breaking like it was in the last game.
So Kostner's Restoration is going to come across in the red zone, and again, no Gabby Township activation, and nothing. I'm a little strange. Nothing doing with like the Sim Collector or the Lotless Troll.
Yeah, I think I don't think you want to play a long game here. I think you want to try to close this out as quickly as you can, because again, Mark's deck is much more powerful in the late game.
Now here's a Sorin post-combat, and now we're going to see a Vampire. And okay, so now there goes Lotless Troll, and that means there was poor tapping involved.
So it looks like the Sorin comes down, and interesting that he chose to. So it looks like he's going to be able to at least keep his Sorin around for one turn. Decides to just make a Vampire. With that Lingering Soul still in his graveyard, though, he really wants an Emblem.
Yeah. He could have gotten a lot more aggressive with his Sorin.
Yeah.
It does change the way that Nestico has to play the game, because as you see, his Restoration Angel is going to go towards Sorin Lord of Innistrad. But I kind of agree with you where, as you see, a Vaulted Archangel activation here from Nestico again, plays his Temple Garden as his last card, and bats to the turn back, where he really does want an Emblem, again, because he has no interest, does Kostner, of playing a long game.
Yeah, and not only that, if you make an Emblem and don't attack with your Restoration Angel, you protect your Sorin for one turn, because the Restoration Angel can attack. You can block it. Yes, Mark can activate his Vault to kill your Restoration Angel, but you also kill his Restoration Angel because you have an Emblem.
Yeah.
So, and then you have an Emblem in play, you have a Lingering Soul still in your graveyard, and you still have the Sorin in play.
And we can't forget about that Gabby Township either.
Yeah, and it looks like Kelly drew another Lingering Souls here, so putting a lot of pressure on Mark right now.
So Vampire and the Restoration Angel are going to come across. Nestico going to take some damage. He's going to untap and draw, and let's see what he can find, because it's about that time where we're almost Angel Serenity or Bust territory. It looks like he drew an Ozadaf for the turn.
No, I think it's a Grizzly Savage.
Is it a Grizzly Savage?
Yeah. So give him some cards to dig. So it looks like he's trying to. Yep. So he has 7 mana. So he has 7 mana after the Grizzly Savage. So if he draws Angel Serenity, he can get into play.
3, 4, and 5. Farseek among them. You see a Fiend Hunter, a Deathrite Shaman. What you don't see is Angel Serenity in those top 5 cards. So decisions for Nestico.
Yeah, not a great Grizzly Savage there. With no Unburial Rights even. It's he's basically can take out a Restoration Angel if he chooses, but beyond that, the Gavany Township Sorin could end things pretty quickly here.
As those cards are aching to do. So now here is a Fiend Hunter. And I mean, targets are plentiful. I mean, do you shoot down a Spirit Token? Do you shoot down Restoration Angel? It is going to be Restoration Angel.
Here comes Restoration Angel and Avacyn Pilgrim, probably attempting to kill off Sorin.
Can't block fast enough, I think, if you're Kostner. It's saying, leave my Sorin alone. Avacyn Pilgrim's going to trade with a Vampire. Kostner's going to gain a life off of that block, and the Spirit Token's going to bite the dust. So Kostner gets to untap, knows Nestico has no cards in his hand, has to worry about basically only a Fiend Hunter right now.
So if Kelly just activates his Gavany Township and gets an Emblem, he can be doing 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 damage this turn. Yep.
So we see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 plus 5 is 11, yeah.
So it looks like that is what he will be doing.
So we have at least an Emblem. Is he going to rock the Township activation for what looks to be close to a lethal attack? I mean, Fiend Hunter would get in the way, it would die, Restoration Angel would come back.
Yeah.
But we're looking at what is close to a lethal attack, and now all the guys are...
They are all +1, +1, +0 currently.
And they're all going to come sideways.
He did activate the Sorin to get the Emblem. And it looks like Gavany Township will get activated.
So now, get out your dice.
So he's going to gain 3 life off the Vampire. Restoration Angel comes back. Actually, Restoration should be in play, correct?
Yes.
It's not Angel Serenity, so we will get that corrected. All of his creatures gain a +1/+1 token. And I believe he deals 13.
2, 3, 4 from the Collector. Don't forget about our friend Restoration Angel as well.
And I don't think it wants to blink anything.
I don't think it wants to blink anything either. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it should put Nestico down to 2.
Yeah, so even Angel Serenity here wouldn't be a good enough top deck. And unfortunately, it is just an Avacyn Pilgrim anyway.
Is Avacyn Pilgrim the one that we're looking for?
So
we're going to tie it up here between Kostner and Nestico.
It just shows you know the power of Sorin and Lingering Souls in this matchup. Mark doesn't have that many flyers, so that's really one of the few ways that Kelly can win this game, is to just overwhelm the board with flyers and make them big enough that they're actually a significant threat.
You see Kostner there with the Dolphins. A little more about Kelly here. He is from Miami. This is his hometown. So a hop, skip, and a jump away to come play the Grand Prix. Pretty nice.
Nice, yeah.
Pretty good feeling.
Not bad.
Top finishes, he's playing some PTQs, won a Grand Prix trial or two, and just loves the game, loves to battle, and anytime your Grand Prix is in your hometown, it's a pretty good feeling.
To be able to sleep in your own bed the night before a Grand Prix, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
It's really great. I'm still hoping that we get more Grand Prix in New Jersey, although you can only hope.
Don't hold your breath, buddy. Don't hold your breath.
It's not as exotic a location as Miami.
When was the last Grand Prix in Jersey? Was it the one in Tom's River?
No. I think we had one. I think we might have had one before that. Okay. Although Philadelphia is pretty close to Jersey, so that's not that bad.
How far was that from you?
About an hour.
Oh, that's enough.
So yeah, it's not bad. And Philly, everyone loves the Philly location. Reading Terminal, great place to eat. So, but Miami, can't really complain about Miami considering the beach is roughly 4 blocks away right now. Yeah. I'm going to lie on the beach during my next break.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Get the tan on.
Yeah.
That's all.
So we didn't see Blood Baron in Kelly's deck, but we did see the Sin Collectors. So not sure if he boarded in more Sin Collectors or whether he just didn't board out the 2 that he had in his main deck. Again, Sin Collector, a lot better on the play out of Kelly's deck because it gives him the opportunity to actually get a Lingering Souls if Mark doesn't have his turn 1 Avacyn Pilgrim. Yeah. On the draw, not really sure Sin Collector is going to do much. Again, it looked great in that game because it got the Lingering Unburial Rights. That was sort of an anomaly because Mark happened to have 2 Unburial Rights in his opening hand. I don't think the Sin Collector is going to be as impressive in later games. Yeah. It basically is just a 2-1 a lot of the time.
I mean, you saw for the majority of that game, it wasn't even attacking.
Yeah,
it was literally just, as you said, just a 2-1 that, it took Unburial Rights out of his hand, which is certainly not relevant, or excuse me, not irrelevant, but wasn't a back-breaking effect.
But, maybe he saw the Lingering Souls. Again, if you're on the play and you can get a Lingering Souls, that is huge.
Yes.
That's definitely a huge, especially for a deck like Junk Tokens.
Yeah, on the draw, being able to catch a Lingering Souls is bordering on impossible between a deck that has, a turn 1 mana accelerant in the form of Avacyn's Pilgrim, and the fact that you can just play it on turn 3 before you have 3 mana.
And you don't have any mana accelerant, so you're not getting your Sin Collector out faster. I still like Blood Baron. I hope we see that out of Kelly's deck because I think that is a card that can be pretty impressive. Again, it plows through Restoration Angels, Angel Serenity, can't do anything about it. And as long as you have removal for cards like, and the Lingering Souls tokens can't block it either. So as long as you have a way to deal with Thragtusk, your Blood Baron can actually lock up some games for you. So it looks like Mark is taking a mulligan down to 6. Kelly appears to be happy with his 7-card opener. And let's see if we have a solid keep here. Looks like we do.
It looks like we've got a couple lands and a Far Sequel in there.
Yeah, can't complain. Yeah. Solid hand. Off a mulligan.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that, if you've ever watched or played Junk Reanimator at all, everyone knows at this point, but this deck is a deck that mulligans very well.
Yeah, you don't need many cards to function.
Yeah.
Grizzly Savage and Burial Rights, those are pretty much good enough. Even on a land light hand, so. Turn 2 Farseek gets the Godless Shrine, so Mark now has pretty much perfect mana. Has double white for Fiend Hunter if he needs it. He also has the black for Grizzly Savage and Burial Rights, so. Kelly basically best turn 2 play here, probably Lotless Troll, I guess. Not many turn 2 options in his deck.
Yeah, I mean, even if it is Lotless Troll, again, we saw in the last game where Kelly played a Lotless Troll on turn 2, and I don't think it even attacks.
Yeah. So it looks like we just have a pass back. Kelly's pretty far behind here. If Mark's able to get a Thragtusk down before Kelly's 4th land hits play, it's going to be pretty good position for Mark.
And if you're Mark and you see nothing on turn 1 and turn 2, you are absolutely thrilled.
You're ecstatic.
You can't be happier. Here's a Mulch, going to turn over a Sever the Bloodline, a Fiend Hunter, an Abrupt Decay, and a Grizzly Salvage. So a miss, but a little bit of value there. The Fiend Hunter, the Graveyard Reanimator, and a Sever the Bloodline in the flashback.
A little value, but you really need to start hitting, especially if you mulligan to 6. So
let's try again.
Here we go. We got 2 lands here, so it made up for a bit. Made up for it a little bit. Gets 2 lands here. Looks like he does have a Thragtusk in his hand, so he will be able to get that into play. Does Kelly have the Lingering Soul is the real question, because again, Lingering Soul Sorin, doesn't matter how bad your turns 1 and 2 are. If your turns 3 and 4 are Lingering Soul Sorin, it's still pretty good.
Yeah, that'll turn the game around.
So Kelly may be thinking about, are we going to have the Lingering Soul Sin Collector debate like we did the turn before?
We're just going to see a lot troll and pass the turn back. So
and I thought he had that the turn before.
As did I.
But it looked like he maybe was afraid of Abrupt Decay, so decides to leave up a regeneration mana.
But the one thing as far as role assessment is concerned is, yes, you're a little bit scared. You like to leave up regeneration mana, but you do not want to go long.
No.
You have to try to get them dead as fast as you can, or put on some sort of unique pressure on them that attack you from many different angles, because by playing a Lotless Troll on turn 3, leaving regeneration, I mean, what does Mark care about a 2/1?
Exactly.
I can't kill it, but it's also not bigger than my Thragtusk.
Yeah, and Fiend Hunter can deal with it anyway, and, you know, your opponent mulliganed, so there's a good chance that they might not even have one. The Reanimator decks don't play that many, they don't play 4 copies of Abrupt Decay.
Yeah.
So off of a mulligan and you're playing a Reanimator deck, there's a good chance he just doesn't have a removal spell for it. So I would have just jammed it out there on turn 2 probably, but here it's going to be a pretty good hit for Kelly, because he can block, regenerate, possibly discard a creature to actually deal with the Thragtusk. So, but no, it looks like he's just going to regenerate it though. Doesn't want to discard any of its creatures.
Cavern of Souls is going to come in here for Nestico. We'll figure out what that's naming for you guys at home in just a moment. And it is naming Angel, not the first time we've seen that before.
So it looks like he does have the Restoration Angel in his hand. Restoration Angel and Thragtusk have been bringing people out of mulligans for years now. So pretty solid combination of cards there.
So here's a 5th land, and
there's
a Sorin.
There's Sorin.
So that's what you could say is step 1, as a Vampire token is going to come into play.
Unfortunately, the Restoration Angel will be dropping that Sorin down to only 1 counter. So Mark Kelly will need to find an answer for that Resto Angel pretty quickly.
Grizzly Salvage, which is going to turn over 5 cards here. For Nestico, you see a Garruk, Relentless among them. Also, Vault of the Archangel yet again showing up, and along with the Thragtusk.
So interesting choice here. I think you pretty much need the threat. Vault is a great card, but I think you just want the threat there. And now Restoration can come down, get you another beast, another 5 life, and a way to actually attack Sorin.
At this point, you just want to get Sorin off the table. That's all you care about.
Yeah, just get Sorin off. You know how important it is for Kelly's deck. So here we have a draw. Oh, Angel Serenity. Wow. Does he have a 7th mana?
He does have plenty of white mana.
Yes,
it
does.
Have a 7th.
Are we going to see Angel Serenity come down here? I can't imagine not casting it.
You got 7 mana, Angel Serenity. You put that baby on the board.
You can get a Restoration Angel of your own back.
Yep.
In your graveyard. Yep.
So Lotless Troll is going to get eaten. I think it is Restoration Angel and Fiend Hunter that'll go underneath. Basically saying to Kostner, I don't really care very much about your 1/1 Vampire. That has almost no relevance to me.
So it looks like he's casting Purify the Grave, targeting one of the creatures.
Yeah, it took care of the Restoration Angel. But, at the end of the day, that does not have a significant impact on the game. And that's one of the things with when you're playing Chunk Reanimators is, you're boarding a lot of reactive cards against the deck, but, what good reactive cards are there? Because you see Purify the Grave here, which it can be awesome, but again, Nestico can just play a normal game, which is what he's done this game. Far-seeking, just playing like a rock deck.
Yeah, and that's always been the struggle when you're playing against this Drunk Reanimator deck. You can bring in cards like Tormod's Crypt, Purify the Grave, but they can still just cast all their value creatures, It's exactly what we saw this game. It doesn't really matter if you have Purify the Grave in your hand, if your opponent is still blinking Thragtusk with Restoration Angels.
And that's exactly what's taking place this game for Nestico, is he is happy to untap. Kostner does play a Thragtusk of his own, but Nestico's board presence is pretty good. We know that he has another Thragtusk in his hand. He just drew a Mulch for the turn, so you see him reorganizing his mana. He's going to lead off with that. So top 4 cards are coming here.
So he hits it on Burial Rites, and it looks like there's a Angel there too, but Kelly does have a Purify the Grave, so he's going to stop those shenanigans, at least for this turn. But still, dominating board presence by Mark right here. Attacks the lost creatures, and he's going to follow this up with a Thragtusk as well, so Kelly's really backpedaling right here.
It's only going to get worse before it gets better for Kostner.
Yeah.
Thragtusk are going to trade. Damage is going to resolve here after the dust is settled. We're going to add another 5-3 and gain 5 more life for Nestico, pushing him up to a healthy 33.
Yeah, and Kelly's deck just isn't very good on defense. If he had a Sorin emblem in play, maybe it's a different story because suddenly your Lingering Souls become, better blockers. But right now, a token deck just isn't where you want to be if you're playing defense.
A little surprised to see the Unburial Rites attempt there. As you had pointed out, Purify the Grave was at the ready, so I assumed that we were going to see a Thraxus join the party. Maybe, Nestico looks like he may have just missed that Purify the Grave was still down there in the graveyard. Gets that part of the game over with and just keeps moving forward.
Yeah, I think you just want to keep putting pressure on, dropping your threats onto the board. We do have a Sever the Bloodline here, so it looks like that's going to deal with the Angel Serenity.
And 5 mana being tapped.
Oh, is it 5 mana? Yeah.
So what is Kostner up to this turn? He's taking a look around.
Oh, Sigarda.
Sigarda, Host of Herons. Okay.
So that is a pretty solid blocker. And it looks like, and Kelly does have a Vault of Archangels, so that could be pretty impressive right here.
Now, Angel Serenity isn't scared, but the rest of the crew are.
Yeah. So, not playing that Thragtusk it could really hurt Mark right here because he could have attacked for a lot of damage. Now, he can still attack with Angel Serenity, but he's not going to be able to attack with enough to really push lethal. And Sigarda is going to be able to swallow up that Restoration Angel if he attacks with it. So,
and we also know that the one card that maybe Nestico could draw to in this situation, Vault of the Archangel, was milled via Grizzly Salvage, so that's not coming back, and we're not able to draw to that one if you're Nestico. So Sigarda does have the potential to turn things around here.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see what Mark can do right here. It looks like there's the Sever Zone, so he gets rid of one blocker. Everything comes in. So the Beast trade, Restoration Angel gets blocked, or is it Restoration Angel blocked? Or
yeah, it looks like it's blocking something there because the Beasts are going to trade.
So it looks like he blocked. Yeah, he blocked the Restoration Angel.
Okay.
So yeah, he only drops Kelly to 6. Not a bad position for Kelly right here. He can cast the Sever the Bloodline of Zone on the Angel Serenity and play the Lotless Troll. He would only be getting he'd be giving Mark a Fiend Hunter back.
Yeah,
which
is a little bit scary, yeah.
But he can't target the Sigarda, so that's good. Let's see.
The other option is he could just sever. He could
sever the tokens, but I think he wants to deal with that 5/6. Otherwise, the Sigarda will never be able to attack. And Sigarda plus Vault of Archangels is pretty good. So yeah, it looks like he's going to get rid of it, and probably just. He could recast it or just pass the turn back. I think you kind of want to just pass here, especially because you have a Purify the Grave in your hand, and you can't regenerate the Lotless Troll anyway.
I don't love the one thing that you notice here again, and we've seen this a little bit early in the day, is even though these 3 color decks have this great mana, see both players have all the mana in the world. The way that you tap your lands is very important because by not tapping the Vault of the Archangels this turn to cast that Sever the Bloodline, Kelly is very uncomfortable playing Lotless Troll and not having access to Purify the Grave.
Yeah, he's a little loose with the way he's tapping his mana, because again, obviously Vault of Archangel does not need to be untapped in this situation.
Yeah.
But let's see, it looks like Mark drew Lingering Souls, which is pretty good. Gives him 4 power on the board. So Thragtusk can come into play, and we can also see a Lingering Souls flashback. So puts 9 power on the board in 1 turn, so not a bad draw for Mark.
Turns around things in a big way. So now you're going to see a 5-3 on the ground, 5 more life for Nestico, 4 Spirit tokens in the air, and that Beast token as well. So a pretty big shift in a game that Kostner was kind of beginning to stabilize a little bit.
And again, Mark, there is a Sever the Bloodline in Kelly's graveyard, but by flashing it back, he basically forces Kelly to cast it just because there's too much damage on the board. So I think I still like that play, even though you know that there's a Sever coming. So with Kelly at 6 here, he can flashback Sever the Bloodline and cast. He can cast the Lotless Troll, but that's just going to get Fiend Huntered anyway. It looks like he might have to. Yeah, I think he has to flashback Sever the Bloodline and just pass. You end up going to 1 off a Thragtusk attack, but I think it's worth it.
Just clear up the Spirit tokens?
Yeah, you got to get those Spirit tokens off the board. You don't know if he has Gavney Township or anything like that.
Yeah, you have no idea. You like to have an idea, of, you have an idea in your head of what the Junk Reanimator deck has, but again, Nestico's already exhibited that he has Vault of the Archangel, a card that this deck doesn't often play.
Yep.
And so it's possible that he also has Gavity Township. Nestico's going to draw a card. It's a Forest. So now he's looking at Forest Fiend Hunter. And then Kostner has that Purify the Grave.
So again, pretty good shape here for Kelly. Mark's probably just going to attack with both. Oh no, he's just going to attack with the Thragtusk.
I like this deck because there's no reason to throw away the Beast token, because Sigarda's not going to trade with Thragtusk at this point. I think he's comfortable going down, as comfortable as you can be, going down to 1 life, and draws. That was a Blood Baron of the Scope.
There we go. It's the card that I thought could be pretty impressive in this matchup. You can't Fiend Hunter it, that's for sure.
You cannot Fiend Hunter it.
It looks like he doesn't have enough mana to actually activate the Vault and cast Blood Baron, so.
Yeah, it looks to be 1 short.
And he just has the Purify. Is that a Purify the Grave? Yeah, it looks like it might be
Purify
Purify and Lava Troll. So a draw, Avacyn Pilgrim from Mark here. Looks like Thragtusk can still come in. That'll trade with the Blood Baron potentially.
Yep. So immediately blocks with the Blood Baron. That's going to trade. It's going to knock Kostner up to 5. Going to give Nestico a Beast token, but now Sigarda is standing tall.
And Sigarda plus Vault of Archangels might be happening right now. I think it might be worth it.
Yeah, that was the question I was going to ask. You see him reaching really quickly. He's going to cast a Voice of Resurgence. Not a bad draw that turn either. It gives Kostner a target for his Fiend Hunter. And now here's Lava Troll. So now he's comfortable playing both creatures.
And now I think you're okay swinging and activating.
I want to get into this turn.
I really want to get in, yeah. But it looks like he might be just passing. He still has that Purify the Grave in the hand, so maybe he's afraid of a top deck Grizzly Savage.
Okay.
So it's not unreasonable to pass here and give yourself 1 turn to sort of set it up to make sure you don't lose to top decks. Mark just throws a Temple Guard and still has that Fiend Hunter in his hand.
You see a little bit of frustration with that draw for this turn. There is your Fiend Hunter. Bye-bye goes Voice of Resurgence. But there are no good attacks here for Nestico, so Kostner's going to untap. He's going to draw a card. Not quite sure what he found. The question is it time to start trying to turn the corner here with Sigarda plus a Life Link activation? Again,
I think you have to. Your draws aren't. Nestico's draws are more powerful. I think you have to take a chance here. It's not even an unreasonable risk.
Yeah. Unbarrel Writes the draw.
Which is, again, knowing that we have a Purify the Grave, not very.
Well, Mark doesn't know that, but I think he's about to. Mark probably thinking to himself, finally I drew a real card. And Kostner's going to say, not so much, my friend. Burial Right's going to be cast here.
And what are we targeting? And there comes Purify the Grave.
It says, it doesn't matter what you're targeting. Get that out of my office.
Yeah, with Nestico at 33, Kelly has to start attacking here.
That's how I feel too. I think
there's just no you're giving Nestico too much time to draw out of this.
33 is the thing that really is the big factor. Him being at 33 life. Is that a Deathrite Shaman? That is a Deathrite Shaman.
All right, I would now, and he passes again. You're just giving Nestico too much time here. Thankfully for Kelly, Nestico just keeps drawing land.
Yep.
And you can see the frustration kind of building here.
So a flashback here from Burial Rights. Going to target something. That's going to get Purified the Grave on the flashback. Yep, and so he's going to pass the turn back again. And I want to see what's the draw step it's going to take for Kostner to feel comfortable attacking.
I think with an active Deathrite Shaman, I think now he might be comfortable attacking. Okay. I think if you can gain 7 life this turn by activating Vault of Archangel and then activating Deathrite Shaman to gain 2, I think you're probably thinking I'm comfortable enough that I'm not going to die on the swing back. But let's see what he does here. So it looks like we might get there.
He's reaching.
He's doing some math. There it is.
All right, Sigarda coming sideways.
Coming over. Nope.
Oh no! No, he put the brakes on.
Wow. So maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure what he's afraid of right here, but Mark draws yet another land. Eventually, Mark's going to stop drawing land, Kelly. You got to do something. So we're going to have
I was going to say, you saw him reaching for Isolated Chapel. I think he's got to gain life.
Yeah, so he gets
puts
2
him up
life.
to 7. Draws a card now. It's an Overgrown Tomb.
At this point, do you think, so now we're going to finally get a swing.
Attack. And are we going to see an activation of the Vault? So attacking, I think it's step one that we agree with, because he's got to get Nestico dead. But are we going to see a Vault activation? And you see him reaching for mana 2, 3, and 4. So we are going to see that. Kostner's going to go up to 12, Nestico down to 28, and now he's going to try to turn the corner. Counting the draw steps here, because let's say virtually, I think maybe we agree that maybe Kostner should have been attacking maybe 2 or 3 turns ago. So that's going to give potentially 3 extra draw steps for Nestico.
Yeah.
What is he able to find with those extra draw steps?
At this point, he might have just gotten a little too land flooded at this point. Angel Serenity is still a solid draw here.
Yes.
Because Kelly won't really be able to do that much about it. So I still think that Angel Serenity is reasonable. And he's at high enough life. Maybe Garrick. He's got a Restoration Angel here. Maybe Garrick, if you can deal with the Deathrite Shaman, it'll flip. Block the Sigarda for a turn with your Restoration Angel, and then sacrifice your guy to search up an Angel Serenity.
Sure.
So Garrick might be a fine draw, especially since he has a Restoration Angel in his hand. So he actually has a way to protect it from Sigarda.
So Deathrite Shaman activation.
Not sure how many Garricks he boarded in, though. We saw one. Maybe he just has
He's got 2 to start.
So he's got 2. So maybe Garrick, Angel Serenity are probably reasonable draws. Let's see here. Looks like another land from Kelly.
So is anything gonna... Is there anything that's going to stop Kostner from attacking? The answer right now is no.
I don't think so.
So he looks like he's fully committed to just doing this.
So looks like they are currently on turn 1 of extra turns.
All right.
So here comes Restoration Angel coming down.
That puts Nestico down to 23.
Oh, there's Angel Serenity.
We found Angel Serenity.
So here we go. This is turn 2, I believe.
Yep, this is turn 2 of extra turns. Angel Serenity coming in. Can't come into play fast enough.
So we are definitely getting rid of this. Kelly's currently at 16. It looks like there's nothing to target with Angel in his graveyard. So Angel Serenity is going to be clearing the board. Mark can attack for 10, 11 damage this turn.
Mark, a little bit of a fist pump there, saying, finally.
Finally, all these lands.
Yeah,
my Angel finally shows up.
So Angel's going to eat the Lotless Roll of Deathrite Shaman. Here comes the Fiend Hunter. Here comes the Restoration Angel, Avacyn Pilgrim, and both Beast tokens as well are coming across into the red zone here. No blockers here for Kostner. He's got to take that one on the chin and untap and bats the turn back. And I have a feeling we might see Sigarda slow down a little bit as we move on to turn number 3.
So what do we draw here? It looks like a Restoration Angel, possibly. So that's exact. Kelly just needed a creature to not lose. It's a pretty good draw there because he'll be able to cast a Restoration Angel and activate Vault of Archangel. So he's going to be able to survive this attack no matter what.
So we're going to be moving into potentially a draw here in round number 2?
I suspect it's going to be a draw, yes. It looks like Mark won't be able to put up enough pressure next turn, which will be turn 3. Or turn 4, rather. So we have a draw. Looks like it might be a Theranos. Now he's drawing all his threats. A little too late.
Yeah.
So, yep, everything comes in.
Said, yeah, I'm attacking with all my creatures. I need to try to win.
And not going to be happy with this card. Restoration Angel coming down. We're going to have a double block here.
Yeah, see a block with both of those angels and a Vault of the Archangel activation is what you're going to see.
So he's going to take damage, but he'll also be gaining 8 life off the Vault. So I think he's in pretty safe shape of not dying this turn. So it looks like, yep, Restoration Angel will trade with Angel Serenity, and Sigarda will block Mark's Restoration Angel.
Yep.
Down comes a Thragtusk.
Close combat.
So yeah, this basically saying, yep, we're drawing.
Yeah.
Nothing else is going to happen here. So Kelly untaps for the turn.
Yeah. Kostner has turn number 5. So you're calculating the damage. After the dust settles, we'll have updated life totals for you guys momentarily. But after the dust settles here, Kostner's going to untap. He draws an Advent of the Worm. He draws a couple more cards. You see both players with the hands and the shoulders shrugging and all that stuff. But it looks like we are going to be moving into a draw here. There's your Deathrite Shaman. There's your Lotless Troll. There's your Advent of the Worm.
Yeah, and honestly, I think if Kelly just played a little more aggressively, even we're talking like turn 2 Lotless Troll instead of turn 3 Lotless Troll.
Yep.
If you're just playing a lot more aggressively, this never happens.
I agree.
I think Mark drew so badly in the middle of the game there